Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hey everyone, Matt aka Stormageddon here, podcaster, Twitch streamer, creator and producer of Side Quests, co-creator and co-producer of Fun and Games podcast, back with a brand new episode of Side Quests. And the game I'm talking about this time is a game that's really close to my heart. It's a game that, while not the best of its kind, was revolutionary at the time it came out and is so closely attached to important memories of my past that I couldn't not talk about it. That game, of course, is the 3D platformer defining Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 is important to me for a ton of reasons. For one, it is one of the first Mario games I remember anticipating, knowing it was coming out and being excited for. Even more so, I think it's one of the first games I ever had anticipation for. I know the N64 is the first console I bought on release around the time it came out. And that drove a lot of my love of this game, as it was the first game I had for the console, but also my love of Mario. I had grown up playing all of the other Super Mario games that came before, 1, 2, and World, and 3, of course. And this one just felt different. But first, before I get into the details of the game, I want to point out why this game has stayed with me in my memory, and the N64 has stayed with me in my memories for so long, because I have a little personal story attached to it. So for those who don't know, I'm Jewish. And around the time of my bar mitzvah, I knew I wanted the N64. When I just turned 13, it came out that fall around the time of my bar mitzvah. And I knew that's what I wanted as my bar mitzvah gift from my parents. I wanted an N64 and Super Mario 64. But this was in the early days of video game selling becoming like this craze. You know, video game departments were mostly like, they had games in the back. You asked for them. Like, it wasn't browsing in the same way like the world of GameStop and all of that stuff now. It was newer back then. And so, like, they were treated as another electronics department. They weren't really like just out for you to see in the same way that they are just everywhere in almost every retail store now. So anyway, I didn't pre-order one. No one thought about pre-ordering. My parents didn't, because like, consoles had never sold on this level, not to my knowledge anyway, or at least not in my lifetime. I'd never bought a brand new console on release, so I had no clue. And so I was bummed they were sold out everywhere. I'd have my dad call Toys R Us, KB Toys, and any other retailer that would sell video games constantly to find out if they were going to be back in stock. And just, there was no dice ever. It was, I think, weeks after my bar mitzvah before I got one. I don't remember the exact time frame, but I do remember on one Saturday asking my dad, hey, I know that this console is sold out everywhere. Can we still go to Toys R Us and see if they have it? Like, I'll look at toys, maybe I'll buy an action figure. Like, can we just go? Because I really, really want to try and get this thing. And he was like, sure. And he took me. And so we get there, and I'm looking around and pretending like I care about anything else. And then eventually go to the video game counter. At the Toys R Us in Staten Island, where I grew up, the video games were all in a back room. There was like a little counter that you walked up to, and you would ask, like, hey, I want this game. I think there were displays outside also with like little like paper tags that you could grab and then bring to this counter and be like, I want to get this game. And of course, there were no tags for Super Mario 64 or the console, the N64. And so, you know, I went directly to the counter anyway. And we asked this guy behind the counter. Can't remember his name or his age. He felt like this old, wise man, but he was probably in his 30s just trying to get by, or younger even. Anyway, I asked him, hey, I know the N64 is sold out everywhere, but I just wanted to ask if you had any in the back. I was hoping if you had one that I could buy it because we really want to get it. And the guy's like, I don't know if we have any in the back. I think they're all pre-orders, but let me go back and check. And we wait. And we wait. And we wait some more. And then the guy comes back out with an N64 and Super Mario 64. He's like, yeah, it looks like we still got one. He never asked for my pre-order tag. He never asked if we were looking for a pre-order. I asked if he had any. He brought it out. And then I went home that day with an N64 and Super Mario 64. And I remember my anxiety and excitement being palpable on the drive home. I just remember like buzzing in a way that not a lot of other games have made me buzz. I would think Arkham Asylum and Mass Effect come to mind as like games that like I anticipated, or I'd say Mass Effect 2 because I had played Mass Effect 1 already. Like these games, I was anticipating them so much. I was like vibrating with excitement. There are other games too, but those are the two that jump to mind besides this one. I remember getting home with my N64, immediately setting it up, ripping the box open, taking out the game, popping it in, and playing. And I was blown away. Like, this game and this console are tied to that memory of my bar mitzvah and this present that I wanted and this thing I was looking forward to in a way that in gaming I hadn't really done yet, and then will do many times after. But when I turned on this game, it was like magic. And I know it's a little cheesy, but it really did feel like there was no way to explain what I was engaging with. It was the first 3D game. And I know there were others, but like this was the game. Like 3D, polygons, just it felt more like something in a physical space. It was just endlessly exciting for me. And that kind of buzz I felt again for other games, but not on the level of this. And even when the Super Mario 3D All-Stars Collection came out, which I of course bought on the Switch, I felt those memories rush back to me when I booted up Super Mario 64 again, which I hadn't played in a very long time and don't own an N64 or a copy of that game anymore. Let's talk about why this game is important in general and also why it's important to me. It was the first 3D platformer, especially of note, with 3D controls in this expansive world. There was nothing like it. And I was blown away from it by moment one. I was absolutely in awe of its setup, how it looked, how it sounded. And we're going to get into all of that stuff. Starting with the stages and the worlds in this game. I can still hear the tune to Bomb Battlefield in my head as I speak. In fact, I'll pause so you can think about it too. If you've played it, of course. That said, the music, the sound, the look of these worlds in this game were astonishing at the time and still bring back such great memories now. Worlds like Bomb Battlefield and Shifting Sandland, all of these different incredible, awesome worlds. Dry Docks. The names of the worlds are escaping me now, of course, but like Womp's Fortress, they're coming back to me. They all were so unique and so interesting. Some better than others. Some have aged better than others. But the music to all those worlds, the sound design, all of that stuff I remember so well. They were just laid out so brilliantly, and they were easy to engage with. The game is challenging, but not impossible. I, of course, back in the N64 days, got the full 120 stars. One of the first games I probably completed as well. But mentioning the music a lot and the sound design, we should shift to that. The music in this game is iconic. Bomb Battlefield, Big Boo's Haunt, another world that I couldn't think of before. Like I said, Womp's Fortress, the Bowser theme in this game had this like hard rock doom, 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 kind of like pounding boss battle theme, especially the first two Bowsers you fight. It just, the sound design, and I can hear what a box sounds like when it explodes. Like there are a lot of other games I've played that have stuck with me, and I can think about these sounds and probably remember like a Reaper horn from Mass Effect. But this, I can remember, I could probably in my mind play this entire game from start to finish. I remember it so well. And a big part of that is the music and the sound design. It helped shape these worlds, shape the environment, draw you in. And speaking of drawing you in, the graphics I think I should talk about too. And I'm kind of jumping around because I realized I could have structured my notes a little differently, but the reality is I just overwhelmed by how much I love this game. But the graphics, while by no means are groundbreaking now, at the time they were. And honestly, going back and playing it on the Switch, it still looks gorgeous. These polygons aged so well because they were rounded and cartoony. And while I'd say maybe Bowser and the Goombas and a few other things don't look great, Mario still looks cute as hell. So does Peach and the Toads. Like, they all look great. They all look awesome. It is astonishing to me how well this game has aged. And even playing it, I know a lot of people complaining about playing it on the N64, and the controls are not ideal. They didn't program in the analog stick use in a fluid way, but it still plays well. It's not hard to play. I don't feel the same kind of dissonance of playing other old PlayStation games that have not aged as well. It's just incredible what this game laid the groundwork for. And everything I've talked about so far is absolutely that. This is also the first time Mario ever spoke. Charles Martinetti, who's been playing Mario and other Mario characters for so many years, this is where it started. This is the first time Mario had a voice. And it was great. The "It's me, Mario" has defined the character in everything else he's in. He says that often. It's probably the thing that Charles Martinetti gets requested to say constantly. This game just broke so many boundaries for not just Nintendo and not just Mario, but for platforming and game design in general. And it still has some of my favorite music. The metal cap music is also one of my favorite songs in all of Mario history. The power-ups in this game, the flying cap, the metal cap, and the translucent cap, or the phase cap, I don't know what it's officially called. All of them fun to use, really interesting, unique. And there are 120 stars in this game. And while I'll admit collecting the red coins or 100 coins in every stage does get tedious from time to time, and there are some stars that are a pain in the ass to this day that I don't want to do again, all in all, 90% of the collecting and the running around and the engaging in this world is still fun to this day. I love it so much. And thinking back to that 13-year-old me, this kid who, for the first time, found an excitement and a passion in video games that he only kind of sort of had before that, it makes me so happy. And it makes me honestly emotional. I'm getting a little choked up talking about it because that kind of anticipation and excitement for a game is so rare these days. And it's kind of the core to why I started this series. You know, the first game I did was Control, which was the very first episode, because that was at the forefront of my mind when I started this series back towards the beginning of 2020. But now it's come so far, and to hear so many incredible stories. We've got something really special planned for the 50th episode that we've already recorded, though I haven't edited yet. But I'm really excited to share that with you to celebrate everyone giving so much personal love to this series and these games and these stories. And Mario 64 was too personal for me not to be the one to talk about it. I had to do it. And so I don't know that I have to go through this game in detail. Like the story, Princess Peach is captured. You have to get all of the power stars to save her and unlock the final boss battle with Bowser. Like the story is not big here. The experience of this game is where it shines as a Mario game. Later games have more of a narrative, especially Sunshine, which was the first one to come out after this one. But this one was less about story and more about Mario saving the princess. Here's a unique world you can live in and breathe in and exist in. And while, again, it's not the most realistic game ever made, it's not even the best 3D platformer ever made, I would say. I would give that to Odyssey probably as the best spiritual successor to this game, because Galaxy and Sunshine are great, but they are vastly different in a lot of the ways you control stuff, whereas Odyssey, besides the hat-throwing mechanic, moves very similar to this game. But all of that said, I think this game still accomplishes what so many games at the time failed to do, and it's still fun to go back to today. I hope this wasn't too rambly. I hope that my love of this game and my tender memories of how I got to play it and experience it and be close to it made you smile. I know I could have gone deeper on a lot of stuff, but the reality is this is one of the most ubiquitous and well-known games in modern gaming history. But if you haven't played Mario 64, that said, it is available on the 3D All-Stars collection, which is a limited release. It's not going to be out. It's ending, I think, March 2021. They're taking it off the digital store. If you haven't played these games, there are better ways to play these games on the original consoles for sure. But if you don't have a Wii, and you don't have a GameCube, and you don't have an N64, buy this collection. Because these games are worth playing, especially Super Mario 64. I personally think it absolutely still holds up, and is still a lot of fun to play. Might take some patience with the control, but I think if you like platformers, and you never got to play this game, you've been missing out. And if nothing else, listen to the soundtrack, because again, some of the best music in Super Mario history. And I will fight anyone who disagrees. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Side Quests. You can find me on Twitter at DJ_Stormageddon. You can find me Twitch under the same username, Instagram as well. I do a ton of different podcasts, including the main show that this spawned off of, Fun and Games podcast that I do with my great and incredible host, Jeff Moonen. I also do Screen Snark, which is a TV and movie appreciation podcast with the incredible Rachel Quirky Shank. And then I, of course, do Reignite, a Mass Effect deep dive podcast with the incredible Frankie Bradley Lestrange. I do other podcasts off the network as well. I produce Shut Up Evan, hosted by Evan Ross Katz, which is about gay shit and pop culture. And then, of course, Crash Course Autographs, which is my interview series on crashcourse.com. I do way more beyond that. I probably do too much. But that's the bullet points. Again, if you want to find out what I'm up to, just go to twitter.com/DJ_Stormageddon. But that is enough from me. Thank you for listening to me rant, rave, and celebrate the incredible Super Mario 64. And with that, just remember to enjoy yourself and happy gaming. Hi, my name is Matt, aka Stormageddon, and I'm the host of Crash Course Autographs, which is a bi-weekly podcast in which I interview entertainers all over, from musicians to magicians to comedians to burlesque performers and anything you can really think of. Anyone who's willing to talk, I've had them on my show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and more. You can also follow us on our website, which is crashcourse.com. And remember, music is life, and life is good.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.